Hi, folks. My name is Girish, Bali, the host for Back to Basics for Season 3. Today, we're going to talk to Michael Harris. Michael Harris is a person that I got in touch with a few months back, and we are going to be talking about his book. His book name is Falling Down, Getting Up. Now, when you read that title, the first thing comes in your mind is success or failure. Or is it failure or success? Now, that's up to you to decide when you listen to the episode today, but make you think that when someone falls down, there's always ways to get up. Or do we just stay rock bottom? And that's what we're going to talk about today and what all Michael Harris is all about. So let's get into the phone. Let's get into the episode today and let's enjoy a chit chat with Michael Harris. Hi, folks. My name is Girish Bali. As I said on my introduction, today we're going to be speaking with Michael Harris, and we're going to talk about his book, Falling Down or Getting Up. Or is it getting up and falling down? We'll go and find out when we get on the call. But there's one thing that I do know that what's going to happen on this episode. We're going to have fun. We're going to have a great time trying to understand what he is all about and why did he bring up this book and why is it so needed for him, or I should say for us, because he made the book for us. So why don't we find out from Mike and we'll get to know him better. So Mike, how are you? And thanks for coming to Back to Basics.
I'm pretty amazing. It's really great to be here and to be able to have this conversation with you.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Michael, for coming here. But before we getting into the falling business and getting up business, what does back to basic mean to you?
You know, I've thought about that, and one of the things for me about getting back to basics, it's not even just so much this idea of keeping it simple. I like to be in the woods a lot. I like to be in the mountains a lot.
Hmm.
And to me, like getting back to basics is going into the woods and picking mushrooms and coming back and making a big pot of mushroom soup. You know, just like that, the simple things, or going to the top of some butte somewhere. I did a lot of buttes this summer, and I just really enjoy getting out, getting my feet on the ground, and getting into nature. So it's just that it is the simple, and it's just like the basics.
Hmm. Yeah, thank you again, Michael, and hopefully I'll have that mushroom soup also that you have made, and you can share some recipes from what you have cooked or are about to be cooking. So thank you
Yeah,
again for that.
yeah, yeah.
Michael, when you created this book, um, I ask this question majority of my authors because I want to understand that what is their psychoanalysis when they create a book? I mean, does the story come first? Does the title come first? Does the character comes first? Which part came first?
Well, since I'm the character, I would say that I came first in out of those choices because I was quite the character, and I'd gone through a lot of health issues and sobriety, having used to drink a lot and all of that. And people kept telling me that I should write a story, and I was always hesitant to do so because I didn't know if I wanted people to know what really happened.
Hmm.
I also found at the same time, by writing the book, by taking the time to sit down and write the book, I was also able to let go, process, and let go much of those internal gyrations that were still happening inside of me,
Hmm.
from my earlier life, I will say. So,
So,
combination.
thank you again, Michael. I didn't mean to interrupt there, but um, do you think that there are other people are going through that stuff that you had to create this book, or do you want to share what you went through, or
Well,
is it?
I'm happy to share what I went through. The it's Falling Down, Getting Up is the name of the book.
Yes.
And the first part of the book is really more the falling down part. And the second part of the book is really more about getting up. What did I do after I hit bottom?
Mm,
And when I was 12 years old, I was a hotshot water skier, and I was doing a beach landing, and I was coming in way too fast, and I hit the beach extremely hard. But I went to there was a small local hospital where we were. It was on the Oregon coast, a lake down there, and the local hospital down there basically said I was bruised up and I was okay.
mm,
Well, that night I was throwing up blood and getting worse and worse. So instead of my mom taking me back to that hospital, we drove back to Portland, which was an hour and a half, 2 hour drive. And immediately she brought me to the doctor. And the next thing I knew, I was waking up about 10 days later from a coma and discovering that I had had 60% of my liver removed, my gallbladder, broken ribs, collapsed lung, coma, 21 blood transfusions, and really was not expected to ever wake up,
mm,
but I did. And I had had a near death experience. I left my body and I found myself within a group of spirit, and a guy that one of the spirit guides immediately, the name that I got from him was Fred. And so Fred's still around 50 years later.
mm,
I still see Fred around, and he came to me, I believe, in the way that I could see him, which was blue jeans and a red plaid shirt.
mhm,
And that's me, because I'm out in the woods. I love that kind of thing. And rather than coming to me with, a bunch of robes and swinging incense or whatever some of the spirits do,
mm,
um, this guy's still there, and I still talk to him almost every day.
mm. So, thank you again for that.
Yeah.
When you say that when you're speaking with him, does that mean that, just like what we see in TV shows, that do you think that there is an issue that we need to resolve for Fred, or do you think that he's there to guide you to the newer resolution for your life?
I believe he's there to support and guide might be a strong word, nudge or prod.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I don't think that he doesn't give me a roadmap, but I do talk to him and do feel like um it's like a comfort thing. I don't
Hmm.
know if that makes sense, but it's
Hmm.
really comforting.
Hmm.
Especially at those moments that I have that I feel like I need the support. I'm a pretty happy go lucky guy today,
Hmm.
but I haven't always been that way.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, thank you again. Do you,
Yeah.
do you think that there are not a lot of people in your life previously, maybe today there's a lot, but that you were not getting support, that Fred was there? I mean,
Oh
I'm
yeah, I mean, certainly, I think life is filled with family and relationships and friends where, um, rightly or wrongly, we may not be getting the support that we want
Mhm,
all the time.
mm,
And I know, like, after the accident, my self-esteem was pretty shot. I'd been a pretty active kid, and all of a sudden, became the sick kid in seventh grade, and I had a tube in the side, and I was going to the school nurse, a couple times a day, and yeah, there were some other kids that were supportive, but there were some that weren't,
mm, mm,
and my self-esteem really suffered. I tried to talk to my parents about it a couple of times, and they were just happy that their little boy was alive,
mm, mm,
right? And over the next couple of years, from 12 years old, um, I really felt uncomfortable with myself. That low self-esteem was affecting me. I didn't
I
know
didn't
how
know
to
how to fit.
fit in with other people very well.
Mm,
And I ended up starting to drink and smoke pot. And, this is way back in, the mid 70s.
mm,
And I found acceptance within that group of people. I found that by drinking, I seemed to, um, the low self esteem didn't affect me as
mm,
much. I felt
mm.
more powerful than maybe what I really was.
Sure.
So, I mean, I did that for a number of years, Girish. And then at 27 years old, I found myself in the hospital again for a different reason. I had been unable to walk very far. And I thought it was like a spinal issue or something. And I went to a chiropractor, and the chiropractor said, "This is nothing that I can do. You need to go to a vascular specialist."
Mm,
And I ended up at OHSU, Oregon Health Sciences University in Portland, in the vascular department. And they told me pretty quickly, like within the first hour of being there, that they may have to amputate my right leg. My
mm,
right leg was 100% blocked. My left leg was 65% blocked with atherized plaque.
mm,
And at the same time, my cholesterol was 142 and all my blood panels were normal.
mm,
So they didn't really have a clear answer about the causation of it.
mm,
However, my dad had passed away a year earlier from cardio issues, and his dad had died at 52 of cardio issues. My dad died at 58.
mm,
So the heart disease has been in my family for a while.
mm,
But I ended up a month after what they call a fempop, which is essentially bypass surgery, which did restore the blood, at least initially. I
mm,
ended up with blood clots about a month later and back in the hospital. And then in the spring, the following year in 87, I was back in the hospital again, and my legs had reblocked.
mm,
And they wanted to do more surgery. And I kept asking, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? And they couldn't really give me a reason. And Girish, and I don't know why I did this because I didn't know much of anything at that time. I had struggled with working to get sober by then, but I wasn't yet totally sober. And they told me, they said if you leave the hospital, we'll likely take your legs within a few months, and you'll likely pass away within 6 months.
mm,
Well, that was almost a challenge to me, and I signed out AMA, against medical advice.
mm,
They wheeled me to the door, and I got up and walked away,
mm,
only going back one more time about a year later.
mm,
So I resisted that additional medical care. Um, really started working a lot on my sobriety, but I ended up at a rehabilitation center in Southern California in Santa Monica called the Pritikin Longevity Center.
mm,
And I went there because I'd read a book about that they had done. A guy named Nathan Pritikin started it, and he wrote a book about essentially eating a plant-based diet. And this was, back in the 80s. It wasn't as big then. It was still around. Most of it was hippies, and they called it more vegan
yes,
than
yes,
plant-based at the time.
yes.
Um, but the doctor there, when I got there, I was walking about 10 feet with my cane and
Mm,
using a wall a lot. I had to have my hand up against the wall to walk as well. And he said, what I want you to do, he says, you're underweight. So I was about 30 pounds underweight. And he says, I want you to eat as much food as you want. He says, you're not going to gain much weight on the plant based diet, but just eat as much as you want, no limitations.
mm,
And he says, then I want you to go out and walk on the boardwalk because it's right on the boardwalk between the Santa Monica Pier, just south of the pier there.
mm,
And he says, just go out and start walking. I says, well, it hurts. And he says, well, yeah, that's why I want you to go out and walk.
mm,
He says, because if you walk through the pain, which was actually the working title of my book was Walking Through the Pain. he said, as you start walking, he says, you'll build new collateral blood vessels and you'll start to restore your circulation again. So literally within 2 weeks, I went walking from walking about 10 feet to walking 2 miles
Hmm.
up and down the boardwalk from about the Santa Monica Pier down to Venice Beach and Marina del Rey and then back up again. And eating all the food that I could.
Hmm.
So a lot changed very quickly. So it was the first of 3 times that I ended up hearing in my life, just get up and don't worry about it. Just go
Hmm.
out and walk on the boardwalk. So
So,
just forget about it.
so Mike, thank you again for that. Do you think that what you did there
Yep.
is that a concept of mind over matter?
Well, I think it's a combination of things. It's literally by taking the physical action, my or my leg was wanting more blood. So it was sending signals to my brain saying, build new blood vessels in the legs. So
Hmm.
there was that physical action that was accompanying the thought that I was going to be okay.
Hmm.
And even when I had my near death experience and I came back and I didn't want to come back, they said, you're not through yet. Everything's going to be okay.
Hmm.
So I had a lot of trust in the doctor there at the Pritikin Center of what he was saying and felt a lot of support and encouragement. And he just said, just go out and walk. You're
Hmm.
going to be okay. Just go out and walk.
And Mike, and that walk that you were just mentioning, how many miles roughly one way?
From the Pritikin Center down to Venice Beach, I don't remember exactly. It's about a mile
Hmm.
one way. So, like I said, I was walking several miles. I mean, I would walk 10 feet, sit down. I'd walk 12 feet, sit
Sure.
down. I'd walk 14 feet. So I kept doing it. And he explained, that process of building the new blood vessels.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Mike, for explaining that and the whole story. What I have noticed from today's time and versus the 70s and the 80s, I think we were not vocal enough to explain what is happening with our bodies, I think,
Yeah.
right? And I
Yeah.
think and I think from the doctor's point of view or the medical's point of view, not doctors in general, just medical in general, they don't give that much advice either. And I
No.
think today, I think we ask too many questions and they give us too much information.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a difference between back in the 70s and today? And do you think that's a good observation?
Oh, I think there's a huge difference. Technically, the vascular professors at OHSU were very good. They're very good surgeons,
Hmm.
and that's what they know what to do. They're not trained so much in nutrition. They're not trained so much. It hasn't even changed that much since then on the nutrition side.
Hmm.
They haven't been trained so much in the mind body side as well. But it's interesting. The change that's happened is now there's a doctor there that's associate professor of ethics, a guy named Dr. David Clark, which is also a professor of gastroenterology out of Stanford, and he early on in his career began to see the mind body relationship when people had gastro issues, and that he could help people most of the time just with a verbal interaction rather than having to do an invasive technique or surgery or a lot of drugs. But for those people that were willing to do it, he could help them often in 20 minutes time. So here's this guy, associate professor, like I said, at OHSU, and he also started an organization called the PPDA, which is the Psychophysiological Disorder Association, mind body type
Hmm.
thing.
Hmm.
So he goes around the country now and he helps train other doctors and goes to medical schools and clinics, etc., helping to change the diagnostic system in this country, because the diagnostic system is primarily focused on the body, on the
Hmm.
matter. It's
Mm,
not focused so much on the mind and the energy. So
mm,
he teaches people how to, or other physicians, how to understand that, that interplay, that mind body interplay.
mm. Yeah, Mike, thank you again for that. And, you know, I'm very glad that you're here and explaining all the stuff that you've gone through. And from what you and I chatted right before the recording, you seem in a very, very good place. So thank you again for being who you are and what you're doing right now.
And
You know, Mike, we have come up with a new segment for season 3 for Back to Basics. It's a rapid fire round. There's a few sentence and words. I want you to tell us, what do you feel after when I see these words in a brief way, if you don't mind.
okay, I'll do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the first one is mushroom soup.
Mushroom soup, nourishment and love,
Inside me.
energy and spirit,
Fred.
a loving companion on a spiritual journey,
Roadmap.
a guide on how to go from point A to point B.
Comfort.
Mushroom soup.
Okay. Support.
uh, a friend of mine, whose name is Steve, that regardless of what has ever happened, he's always been there, and to be a another man by my side to be supportive.
Awesome. Self-esteem.
Oh, loving oneself.
Challenge.
Hmm. The word that's coming to me right now is relish,
Hmm.
because I like challenges.
Okay.
Yeah.
Walking with pain.
Hmm. Well, certainly walking with pain created pain. That, like, I walked before our show, and it was stimulating.
Hmm. Energy.
Hmm. God.
Nutrition.
Mushroom soup.
Change.
uh, inevitable.
Body.
Mind. If I can mention something right there, I don't really like the term mind body, because it suggests that there are two different things, and I really think that they're one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, the next one is going to be soul.
Hmm. um, I don't know why I'm thinking this, but the first word that came to my mind was singer, soul singer.
Okay. Okay. Uh, back to basics.
uh, being in the woods.
Okay. And the last one is Michael.
Hmm. Happy to be here, loving life, looking forward to living another 44 years filled with health and happiness and smiles.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for playing and being a sport on the rapid fire, because sometimes we like to challenge our guests too at the same time. So thank you again for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was a little bit of challenge, but I liked it. It was great.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
You know, after all the stuff that you have talked about from age 12 till now, how does Mike feel today, and what is Mike for the next 5 more years?
Well, I am really big right now in my life on stories. I got into yoga. I own some yoga studios. I've sold them. I still teach about 10 classes a month. I've trained thousands of yoga teachers, and I've seen a lot of people heal and get better through mostly self-care type things, the
Mhm.
simple things, rather than a lot of pharmaceuticals. I see people that get rid of pharmaceuticals. And so I see a lot of stories, and I love the idea of people getting their stories out. And that's what I like, and appreciate about like what you're doing with this show is you're bringing, this plethora of different guests on, and they're telling their stories. And by a guest telling their story, it helps at least me, and I was going to say us, but at least me clarify what my story is, what is real and what it's not. And I've also found that through my story, through other people hearing it, perhaps, one other person that will listen to this on this show might feel encouraged, or maybe they're feeling a little depressed or sad and they're not quite sure what to do, and it might provide a little bit of hope. And I think in today's world, especially by telling our stories, by communicating with each other, we're actually building, a stronger community where, regardless of our differences, we're finding the similarities to be able to, come back together and really connect, because there's so much. I like to say, but I don't know if I like to say, I say that there's a lot of energy in our atmosphere right now bouncing around, with everything that's going on in the world, and whether it's local, national, international, global, all of it. And again, the more that we can connect as individuals, the more that I believe we can connect as communities. So this whole idea story to me right now is a huge passion of mine.
Hmm. Yeah, Mike, thank you again for that.
Yeah.
You know, um, let me ask you this: is there a book that you're reading that it's inspiring you, making you happy, making you laugh? I mean, is there something that it's, I don't know, giving you a tick today, or a kick, I should say?
Well, there's several different books. One of them is a book by somebody named Michael Singer, and it's a book called The Surrender Experiment, which is a really great book on really letting go, so to speak, and allowing, each moment to be what it is, and letting it unfold without really trying to control it. I don't really read fiction. It's more nonfiction. I listen to the book Think and Grow Rich every day for 10 minutes, and I have for 2 or 3 years now. I put it on. So I've listened to it several times through.
Hmm.
So that there's several books, um, and there's more. I mean, I could give you a whole list
Sure,
of
sure.
more that I enjoy, but that's a couple of them.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
again for that. Mike, if you had a chance to, I don't know, reboot your book again or
Mm.
rewrite something again, what do you think the title would be?
Hmm. Well, I don't know if I should say it because I'm in the process of doing that right
Okay.
now. And I do have a working title of it. Um,
Well, how about this? When
okay,
you come,
and I just heard go ahead and say it. So, um, and it's an expression a friend of mine and I have. We're off trail most of the time when I go into the woods. I don't do the trails very much. I might do a trail for a short distance to get to a particular location, but mostly 90% of the time I'm off trail. And so there's an expression we have and we say trails are for tourists.
okay,
So, and the idea is about finding our own way.
finding your own way. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Mike. And whenever you come up with that book, please do come back to basics. I would love to talk about the second part of Michael Harris's way and journey of what he and the mushroom soup, by the way. So
The mushroom soup's really good for the brain, the mushrooms I use. Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
Michael, before you leave today, do you have any last words for all my listeners and my viewers? And how was your journey on Back to Basics too? On top of that.
Well, it's really great to be here, and I really like again the work that you're doing, and again, whether it was Nikki Ballou on your show or Rosa, um, I listened to it. I don't remember her last name now. Rosa or Grace De La Rosa.
Gracie Little Rosa.
She was fantastic. So I encourage any listeners to listen to some of the other shows as well. And the other thing I want to mention, if I can throw this up here real quick, this is the book Falling Down, Getting Up. And you can find that really in any bookstore anywhere. But what I'd like to do today, Girish, is, the best way to reach me is michaelbharris.com. If they want a free copy of this book, they can go to michaelbharris.com/book, BOOK. You won't find the link anywhere on my website. It's a hidden link. But again, if somebody wants to download that book, it's michaelbharris.com/book.
Well, Michael, thank you so much for that, and I might grab it if that's okay with you. And
Absolutely, yeah.
I do want to understand the whole detail as to what you have talked about. Yes, that 1 mile, it seems like 10 miles for you, right? And that courage is a big thing. So thank you again for explaining that. It's not an easy story to tell either. So thank you again for that.
Absolutely.
So Michael, thank you again for being here, and we will keep in touch as much as we can. I would love for you to come on, let's say, season 4 and 5, and talk about your second part of your book, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely, whatever you like. I'm an open book, so to speak.
Yes. Thank you again, Michael, and
thank you.
Thank you. So guys, we spoke with Michael today, and we talked about the basics of his life and what he's gone through, right? We talked about the downs and the ups and all the courages that he's gone through. We talked about mushroom soup too on top of that, right? Now, as usual, as always, there's a quote of the day from Back to Basics, and hopefully you'll like that, and hopefully Michael will like that too. The quote is, "There are no classes in life for beginners. Right away, you are always asked to deal with what is most difficult." And that's the quote of the day. Now, as usual, as always, what do we always say at the end of the episode? Everything in life goes back to basics, and that's what we did today, guys. Guys, take care. God bless.
Hi, my name is Michael Harris. Recently, I was on Girish's show, Back to Basics. Now, as a host, Girish is one of the best interviewers of any show I've been on. In our conversation, Girish really jumped right in to talk about what's really important without really any of the fluff. Our connection was immediate. Girish really knows how to just dive in to really what's impactful for the listeners and really give them what they want to hear. If you haven't listened to Girish's show yet, do so now without hesitation. And if you need anything from Girish on podcasts, be sure to reach out to him directly as well.
Hi guys, thank you again for tuning in to Back to Basics and listening to the excellent episode that we had today with our guest. With your love and support, we do need you to at least rate our show, review our show, because it does make us stronger day by day, week by week, as I usually say on my episodes. And there are 3 things in this episode that it makes a hit for me, which is the content, the guest, and definitely the host. So guys, take care, God bless, and remember, everything in life goes back to basics, and that's what we did today, guys. Guys, take care, God bless, and see you next time on Back to Basics.